Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am Jess, and today we are going to be talking about succulent scams. This is something that I see an awful lot of, and so I'm hoping that we can kind of talk today and you guys can be kind of prepared for what's out there. I'm sorry if you can see my light in the reflection of my glasses. It's really dark out right now when I'm filming, so I gotta have my light on. First off though, I have my SIPSBY box for SIPSBY, I don't know, whatever, for December. I have a hot cup of tea, and this one I've been really looking forward to. I want to try, I think, this one. That's what we'll drink today. I get 4 different teas with my subscription. I will include a link down below if you guys are interested. Smells good. I like black tea. So I'm going to make myself a cup of tea. Feel free to pause the video and go make yourself some, because this is probably going to be a much longer video than normal. And there's going to be a lot of information in here. So kind of why I want to talk about this is because again, I've seen more and more scams online of people, like thousands of people purchasing seed packets that I look at the photos of what they're selling and I'm like, well, those are fake. And a lot of times people will get weeds as the seeds, or like weed seeds, and you won't know the difference because seeds kind of look like seeds, and if you've never seen a succulent seed, you're not going to know what to look for. Even if you have seen a succulent seed, they're all different. So it's not like you can kind of tell. Like, it's not like sunflowers where a sunflower seed looks like a sunflower seed. Succulent seeds are very small and they look like dust, and it's very hard to find or to tell when they arrive. And so a lot of people, I think, can get away with this. And they're very hard to grow. And so if you don't have any germinate, you might just chalk it up to yourself as not being as being a failure at growing these seeds, when in reality, maybe they didn't sell you the correct seed. However, if they don't grow, it could also be your own fault. So I'm saying it kind of goes both ways. But I do see a lot of scams, and I'm kind of going to go over them today. And kind of show you what to look for, I guess. So that's kind of the basis of this video. That's kind of why I wanted to do this. The places that are kind of common that I would have you guys kind of watch for is if you're buying off of Etsy or eBay or Wish.com. I personally wouldn't buy off of Wish for succulent seeds. Facebook has some groups that sell stuff like that. Unless it's an actual nursery that is selling from their store, chances are you might find some scams. And so I kind of want to go over those today, because there are actual sellers that sell real succulent seeds on all of those platforms. You just have to be careful of which ones to trust, and I'll kind of go over each of those topics a little bit with you. So just as a disclaimer, this is all of my personal opinion. I'm not trying to discourage you to buy from certain people. I'm not trying to push other sellers on you. This is more of a tool that you hopefully can use anytime you go shopping for succulents or succulent seeds. Most of these tips are going to be more specific to succulent seeds today, but I'm not sponsored by any company or anything, and just because a store does it a different way than what I say is kind of the right way today, doesn't mean that they're not a reputable seller. And just because they have it be a scammy way, you know, it kind of goes both ways. Just because they look good doesn't mean they are, and just because they look bad doesn't mean they are. So obviously take what I say with a grain of salt, because really it can go either way. This is just how I feel comfortable buying my products, and so hopefully you can kind of go off of that, because I feel like a lot of people just see something they want and buy it, and they don't give 2 thoughts about if it's actually going to be a real product, because I think a lot of people just think it will be, and I've seen a lot of people get scammed by this. So I'm just trying to help you and save you some money and have you put your money towards real plants that are going to give you results. Before we move on, if you find this video helpful, please give it a big like button. It really supports my channel. And if you haven't already, go subscribe down below so you don't miss any other videos. All right, so the very first thing we're going to talk about is the photos. So on any of these sellers, I'll show you some examples in a minute, but on any of these sellers, what you're really going to be looking for is the photos. You want to see on one product, say you're buying an echeveria seed of some sort, what I like to see is their personal echeveria with different angles of the same plant. So you can kind of, I guess what you're trying to avoid is the stock photo image of that plant. And I personally like it when the sellers post their own photos of the plant, because then I know that's something they own. They were able to take multiple photos of it, and it kind of just tells me that they were real. All right, so let's look at micro landscape design. This is on Etsy. I just searched succulent seeds and I found her account. This is someone that I have bought from before, so I do really like how they have their store set up. So this is the bunny ears succulent. I did actually buy this plant in the past. I don't have it currently because they died when I moved, but I need to get some more again. So this is kind of what I wanted to highlight with the photos. So they have their own very specific photos for their product. So this is a very original photo, and if you scroll through, they have multiple angles of this plant. They have it in their hands for a size comparison. They have a picture of the seed. They have the picture of the babies, of what they're going to look like when they first start growing. I love this plant, essentially, or like this seller. So this multiple photo, multiple angles, very original photos makes it very easy for me to trust them. The other thing is I want to make sure that those photos are original to the seller. So a lot of times you'll see multiple people use a stock image, like I said, and maybe they have multiple angles, but if multiple people have that photo, that's kind of a red flag. And then the other thing that I look for is if the photography is consistent with the other photos on that seller's site. So if I'm looking at an Etsy account and they have 10 different succulents for sale, I can expect to kind of see the same pattern of photography throughout. A lot of sellers do their own photos, or they hire someone to do their own photos, but those, however they get their photos done, usually they're done in the same manner, because that's kind of part of branding. And if they have that done and they're all consistent throughout each product, that's a good sign to me that they actually own those plants, that they put in the time and effort to brand themselves and get good photos, and that they're going to have those real plants. What you really want to avoid are those stock images that show up on every website and that everyone uses. Those can be kind of fishy and scammy. So here is their page. This is Lily's page. And I really wanted to point out the style of photography that Lily has. So as you can see, so she does sell a lot of lithops. Her lithops are all very consistent between this photo, and then she has these ones where she stacks them up, and that's how she showcases her plants. Having this consistency, obviously it's not through every single product, but having this consistency on multiple products and having them all be very original photos does tell me that I can trust buying from her. And she has a lot of these necklaces, and all of those have very similar photos as well. So that's just my personal opinion again, but that's kind of what I look for. And then the last thing is how photoshopped does this plant look? A kind of a good rule of thumb is if it looks fake, chances are it is or could be, which kind of leads into my next point on this whole fakeness. So if you're kind of concerned about a certain plant, whether or not it's real, a good example of this is that neon blue succulent that's been popping up in my feed at least a lot. If someone is selling a succulent, now mixed succulents, it's going to be different, but I don't necessarily like buying a bunch of mixed succulents unless I already trust the seller. But if they're selling a specific type of succulent, they really should have the scientific name with it, or at least a name of some sort. And what I like to do is I like to take that name and then just search it in Google. And if most of the images that pull up are of a similar plant, you can tell when plants look like they're that plant, then I would trust it a little bit more. But if you Google search that name and their photo is the only one that pulls up and all the rest of the photos are of something completely different, that's a little fishy to me. I would really consider not buying from them. But that doesn't mean that they're not a good place to buy from, because sometimes they do have their own plants and maybe only them have photos of them, because there's so many different types of succulents. I just am more weary of buying from them if theirs is the only one that looks like that. I hope that makes sense. All right, so this one here, I'm not trying to say is untrustworthy, but the photo and what they're selling is 100-piece lithops, pseudo whatever. This to me kind of screams scam. And I'm not saying that it is. Maybe it does actually grow succulents. I can't promise one way or the other. However, I can tell you that this succulent in the middle, I am pretty sure is fake. And all of these kind of look fake. This one I actually know does exist, but it's heavily photoshopped. Now these are lithops, and so again, maybe these are plants that she does have, but this blue is not a plant, and I've never seen that sold before. So I'm not saying that she doesn't have plants that she's selling. All I'm trying to say is this is something that I would stay away from, just because I don't necessarily trust this and there's not many photos. Again, it's a mixed variety and those kind of are. All right, so now we're on eBay. I typed in succulent seeds and this is one of the results that I found. Again, I would really try to avoid the mixed succulent seeds packages unless you're buying from a very trustworthy seller, which I'll show you a few that I would trust to buy seeds from. But I just showed you this plant in real life. It is not blue like this, it is green. And so same thing here. This is photoshopped. It is very easy to Photoshop nowadays into kind of playing tricks on your brain, because it can look very real and deceiving. Because this one is real and this pink one probably is real and all these purple ones, but these two plants are unrealistic and they aren't that in nature. So I just wanted to really clarify that this is kind of where it gets fishy and where I would not trust the seller. So please be aware of this. These mixed succulent seeds are not a good idea. All right, so let's see if I can find anything else. Again, here is our lovely blue friend that I would avoid like the plague. All right, so let's look at this one a little bit. So this one is Lithops, Optica, Rubra, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Now it does have a few extra photos, which is kind of nice. But they're not consistent. They don't look like they're from the same photographer, which kind of makes me feel like they took photos from someone else. So if we just Google Optica, or let's see, Lithop, Optica, Rubra, this is kind of the way I would go about this, to try to see if I trust it. So this one does indeed actually pull up kind of a trustworthy result. So they're all very similar. They're all very purple. Again, you know, I still don't know if I would buy from the seller that I showed you, just because they don't have their own photos and it's not their own plants. I kind of prefer to have a seller who has their own photos, but I'm not saying that they're untrustworthy. And they did get the scientific name right of this plant. So if it shows up with one photo of this purple one and then all the rest of these are of a completely different plant, that's kind of a red flag. The other thing is attention to detail. So a lot of good sellers that I've bought from have really detailed instructions on how to grow succulent seeds. Succulent seeds are hard to grow, and they're not like typical other seeds. You have to do different germination temperatures, and if the seller that you're buying from has those detailed instructions, and a lot of times they'll even have it under the product listing, that's kind of a good idea that they're going to be willing to discuss care with you if you reach out to them and have that personal connection. A lot of people on Etsy, this is really easy to do with because you can just send them a direct message and they can respond back to you, and you can ask them whatever questions you want before you buy the product. With other places, I don't know if the customer service is that available, but that is something that you can keep in mind and do. If they have really good attention to detail and they seem like they're very willing to help you have success with this plant, that's kind of a good sign that they might actually be selling a real product. Now, let's talk about reviews a little bit. So reviews are kind of iffy for me. They work best for real plants. If you're buying a real live plant that's already formed, then reviews do really well because they'll show you how the seller kind of shipped the plant and the quality that they got. But for seeds, it's really hard, and I never look at the reviews when I'm looking at seed products. And this is because a lot of times on selling sites like Etsy and eBay and Wish, if you want to leave a review, you only get so much time to do so after you buy the product. So I think on Etsy, last time I was given 6 weeks to buy the product, and succulent seeds, like I said, take a really long time. And are very hard to grow, and so I wanted to make sure I did it right, so I did my research, and 6 weeks was not a long enough time for me to verify that I actually got the succulent that they said that they were sending me. And so a lot of the reviews, if there are reviews on those sites, are of people saying, I got my seeds, haven't germinated, nothing's happened yet, but I'm sure they will, which, like I said, sometimes they can send weeds. It's not a good indicator of the actual quality of the product. So I don't like listening to the reviews. I would much rather go over the photos and the name of the plant and do my own research on it before I spend money on that. The micro landscape on Etsy I really like. I also have a place called raresucculents.me that I've bought from before, and they do take forever to get to America, at least, just because I think they're selling them from Ukraine or I don't know, somewhere else completely. So they take about a month to actually get here through the mail. For real succulents, there are 3 places that I recommend. That's fairyblooms.com, Leaf and Clay, and Mountain Crest Gardens. All 3 are very trustworthy places if you want to buy succulents. Kind of the end goal of this video is to be safe with your money and have fun shopping, but you really do have a few things that you should look for when you're buying these, because I think the rate of scams is increasing and that it's not going to go away anytime soon. So this is just kind of a good rule of thumb to follow and kind of something to keep in mind when you're looking for these. If you ever question the product, try to reach out to the seller and ask them a few questions. I'm sure they would be happy to respond if they're legit and they know what they're doing. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to leave anything down in the comments section below. I would be happy to answer them if I know the answer, so go ahead and do that. If you have not already, please go ahead and click that like button if you found this video helpful, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel below. Thank you. Bye.